None of you seem to understand. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
Did I fool you guys in the intro? That's what me in this room used to look like. Okay, I brought the chair gag back for a little bit, but this is most likely the last full-length video I'm going to make in this room. Unless something goes catastrophically wrong, you guys will see the new studio next week. And my new studio is going to be on a second story, so the chair gag is going to become a very seldom thing. I'm sorry. It will still happen every now and then, but it's gonna be like pulling a rare Yu-Gi-Oh card, okay? Like, you don't know what videos are and are not gonna have it, because I'm not trying to crash through the floor of my new place. I also don't want to have my chair explode and have a big rod go right up my ass. I've had this chair since 7th grade, and I don't plan on getting another one anytime soon. Oh, but anyway, what is up, you big bodacious bag of buttholes? Den here. And today we are going to talk about Mr. Joe Bonamassa, the man on a never-ending quest to own every guitar in existence. He's coming for yours too. Don't think he's not. Like, haven't you guys ever heard the poem? First he came for the vintage guitars, and I said nothing. I think you guys know the rest. But more specifically, we are going to talk about Mr. Bonamassa's new signature Epiphone in the year of our Lord 2025, as well as take a look at some of his other past signature models. Now, not everyone is a middle-aged to elderly blues dad, so for those of you that don't know, Joseph Bonamassa is quite the popular blues guitarist. Prodigy at a young age, made a bunch of music with a bunch of famous artists, can finger a guitar like a high school boy in the back of their mom's Toyota Corolla on prom night, still has very successful tours, bro travels with a professional chef. It's very fun. And Mr. Bo Bonamassa is quite the controversial figure in the guitar world, but I kind of like him. I think he's a great player, and I like to hear him talk about guitar stuff. It gets a little weird when he talks about anything else. He also does this funny thing that some guys do to where they tell a story and they explain it in such great detail that they end up getting so off track that you kind of forget what they were originally talking about in the first place. He'll be like, so I bought this guitar from a guy in the Midwest named Craig. Wonderful guy, beautiful family, amazing home. It's got some plumbing issues. He was friends with my guitar tech's sister's husband named Gary. We got to keep him in the divorce. He was an accountant for Goldman Sachs, and he was actually on Wall Street during the dot-com crash in the early 90s. He had just grabbed Subway and he was heading back to the office when he actually ran into his cousin Diane, who had just had a baby. I don't know, my dad does the exact same thing and it just makes me laugh. But another pretty well-known thing about Mr. Joe Bonamassa is that he has quite the impressive collection of vintage guitars and vintage gear. Dude collects 1959 Les Pauls like Thanos collects Infinity Stones. And he has a deal with one of our favorite brands, Epiphone, to where every year they release a new limited edition signature guitar right around All Hallows Eve. And at first they were just kind of weird, like especially his Gibson ones. There was one where he put a Firebird headstock on a Les Paul, and that is just so deliciously unhinged. I love it. But after a couple years of working with Epiphone, they started doing this thing to where they would pick one of his million vintage guitars and they would recreate it as an Epiphone version for us peons. We buy the Epiphones so he can buy another 1959 Burst. Like, if you look at just how much gear Joe Bonamassa has, I'm almost positive he's made enough money at this point to end child hunger. But hey, I'm not trying to judge or shame, okay? I would pick the gear too, all right? Fuck them kids. Now, a couple years ago, they released an Epiphone version of his 1959 Lazarus Les Paul Standard. And for those of you that remember, I owned an Epiphone Lazarus for about a year or two. That is what I'm noodling around on in the playing clips for this video, so enjoy the vintage den. We will talk more about Lazarus here in a little bit, but for this year they decided to make an Epiphone version of his 1959 black Les Paul Custom. And the specs on this one are pretty interesting. So this guitar comes with just a mahogany body, a mahogany neck with an ebony fingerboard, typical Les Paul Custom affair. Comes with a 1960s rounded medium C profile. It comes with aged yellow binding, Epiphone ProBucker custom pickups, gold hardware, Grover Imperial tuners, and if you somehow didn't notice the the giant tumor on this thing, it also comes with a Bigsby, as if the tuning stability on Les Pauls wasn't bad enough. And it retails for $1,000, which is pretty steep, but it's been worse before. We're gonna talk about it here in a second. However, based off of what I'm reading, this is essentially just a $799 Kalamazoo headstock Epiphone Les Paul Custom, just with a bigger neck, some quirky tuners, yellow binding, and a fuck-ass Bigsby. Now, since this is a 1959 Les Paul, it's supposed to come with the taller M69 pickup rings. However, Epiphone refuses to do that for any other guitar besides their Flying Vs and their Explorers, because they're too chicken shit or something. I don't know. They don't have the nuts to put their taller pickup rings on their Les Pauls for some reason, and that fact haunts me. It keeps me up at night. However, the Epiphone Lazarus Joe Bonamassa signature retailed for $100 less than this guitar. And the specs on the Lazarus are a pretty solid tier above this new 2025 signature, because the Lazarus ones came with shit like Gibson burst buckers and a one-piece neck. Yeah, in 2025, you are paying more for a lesser spec'd guitar. Is America great yet? But that's not really Joe's fault. I mean, he's not responsible for every single mega corporation on planet Earth price gouging literally everything into Uranus. But regardless, this new 1959 Les Paul Custom does look pretty neat, besides the Bigsby. I really like the yellow binding. What I like about Joe Bonamassa's signature guitars is they don't really look like signature guitars. You know, he doesn't really have his name plastered all over them like it's Stark Tower. By the way, for those of you that don't know, if you go onto Joe Bonamassa's website, you can actually get a even more limited edition version of this guitar for like an extra $100, and they replace the block inlays with a gigantic inlay of Joe Bonamassa's name. It's a pretty subtle difference. You probably didn't even notice it, but you also get 2 meet and greets with Joe Bonamassa if you buy that version. So you can take it to him and show him his name on your guitar, and then you can ask him to sign it so that his name is on your guitar twice. But you don't get just 1 meet and greet, you get 2. So you can repeat this entire process all over again and end up with a guitar that has Joe Bonamassa's name on it 3 times. But now let's check out some of the older Joe Bonamassa Epiphone signature guitars, and let's talk about how they stack up price-wise, because it's actually pretty interesting. So Gibson and Epiphone recently redid both of their websites, and they don't show their discontinued models on there anymore, which makes me quite flaccid if I'm being frank. However, Joe Bonamassa's website is a monument to himself, and his website has all of his signature Epiphones going all the way back to 2014. I don't know if he had any signature Epiphones before that, but that's what I got to work with, so that's the ones we're going to talk about. So his signature guitar in 2014 was a Pelham Blue Les Paul Standard for $700. I believe the Gibson version of this guitar is the one that came with the Firebird headstock, so it's kind of disappointing that they didn't have the schnuts to put it on the Epiphone version as well. Then in 2015 they made a green Les Paul Standard signature, and that one also came with a gross Bigsby for $800. So already these Joe Bonamassa signatures have kind of always been on the upper end of Epiphone's pricing, especially back then. Then in 2016 they released 2 signature Firebird 1s for $800 each. They both had the stripper's name of Treasure. One was a Polymist Gold, and the better looking one was a Tobacco Burst. And then in 2017 his signature model was a recreation of his 1958 Corinna Flying V named Amos, and that one retailed for $900. Now the real Amos Flying V might be the greatest sounding guitar in existence. I'm not kidding. Joe made a string theory video with Ernie Ball way back in 2016, and he plays the real Amos in that video, and dude, just listen. I regularly go back and watch that video just so I can hear that guitar. Then in 2018, his signature guitar was a black 335 with a Bigsby on it for $1,000. And I don't want to be mean, but it looks kind of boring, TBH. And this is also when they started offering versions of his signatures that came with the giant Joe Bonamassa inlay for an extra $100. So every guitar we list from now on has that option. Yeah, people think Epiphones didn't start cracking the $1,000 mark until like 2021, but they were already getting that expensive way back in like 2018. Then in 2019, they released a recreation of his 1960 Les Paul standard he calls the Norm Burst. I'm assuming he bought that one at Norm's Rare Guitars, but you know what they say about assuming. And the price for that one actually went all the way back down to $700. And it's cool. I mean, I'm not exactly a big fan of the tomato soup bursts like at all. I like my bursts to come with as little red as possible, but it's aight. Then in 2020, his signature was a 3-pickup Black Beauty Les Paul Custom for $800. This one might be my favorite out of all the Joe Bonamassa signatures. I have stayed kicking myself in the ass over not buying one of these when they came out. I love 3-pickup Black Beauties, and I think the yellowed out binding really makes the look of a Black Beauty. Some people think that fake yellow binding is kind of corny, and I do get that to a certain extent, but I also don't think black Les Paul Customs look nearly as good without that yellowed out binding. Hot take, I guess. Then 2021 was the year that they released the Epiphone Lazarus models, and again, those retailed for $900. That's the one I owned, guys. Now here is where the prices of these Joe Bonamassa signatures start to get pretty bonkers. In 2022, his signature was a red 1962 ES335, and that one retailed for $1,300, which is quite the leap from the $900 signature that came just the year before. This was right around the time the world started price gouging everything into the sun. But don't worry, guys. It came with a free t-shirt and a free hat, so that makes it worth it. Then in 2023, we have the most egregious one. It was a recreation of a red 1963 3-pickup SG Custom, and it retailed for $1,400. That is bonkers. And it didn't come with like custom buckers or the Gibson open book headstock either. It did have the cool yellow binding, but it only came with the Epiphone Kalamazoo headstock and Epiphone Pro buckers. For $100 more, you could get the Epiphone IBGC white 3-pickup SG Custom, and that one does come with the Gibson open book headstock and 3 Gibson custom buckers. So that obviously is the better choice over this Joe Bonamassa signature one. Dudes must have been smoking that Bhutanese Shadow Garden Kush from the Hashish Transport Trail in Azerbaijan when they came up with the price for that red SG. $1,400 is insane. Then in 2024, it seemed like they came back to their senses a little bit, because that year's release was a recreation of a 1955 Les Paul standard in copper iridescent that came with P90s. And it retailed for $850. I am so stupid, I forgot to say the most important part of that sentence. Which is quite the decrease in price, and that is an overall net good. However, that price decrease might have something to do with the fact that this is probably the most boring looking one out of the entire bunch. Like, the P90s are cool, but opaque brown is probably the most boring color you could put on a Les Paul. And that brings us back to the 2025 signature that we've already talked about. I think the best Joe Bonamassa signature overall was the 3-pickup Black Beauty. That is easily the best looking one, and it was only for $800. Like, man, who'd have known we had it so good back then? And then I would say Lazarus and then Amos would come in second and third place respectively. That red 3-pickup SG does look really, really cool, but $1,400 for that guitar is fucking crazy. And to me, all the other ones are just kind of eh. I mean, if you like all those other signatures, then that is great for you, but this is my YouTube channel where my opinions reign supreme. You know, I probably shouldn't say supreme in today's political climate when I have this skin. Oh yeah, it's something. But it is interesting to see how the prices of these Joe Bonamassa signatures have gone up and down as the years go on. Like, I thought it would be just a straight climb upward, but it hasn't been. So is the guitar market getting a little better? Not really. Hooser, I think I have yapped far too long. I think we're gonna wrap it up right here. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. I really hope you enjoyed. But definitely go down there and leave a comment. Give me your guys' thoughts and opinions. What do you think about this year's Joe Bonamassa signature? What do you guys think about Joe Bonamassa? What do you think about all his other signature guitars? What do you think about his guitar collection? There's many opinions for you all to give in the comment section, and I love seeing what you guys have to say. Share the video around, smack the piss out of that like button, and if you regularly watch my videos and you haven't already subscribed, then I'm gonna sick Joe on you, and he's gonna come after your guitars. Joe's kind of like ICE, except instead of kidnapping brown people, he just comes to your house and buys all your guitars, and then you'll be a no guitar having ass bitch. Big shout out and a thank you to Cosmic Steez, A Horse Running, Solar Flare, Rob Heath, Bad Joe Guitars, Brandon's Balisong Corner, Bandage Knives, Jan Chocolate, Leagues Beneath, Scott Toman, Master Chief, Big Tills, Torch of Hope, and Mr. Crazy. These big titty goth girls are my current channel members, and their support really does mean a lot. If you want to join them, get a shout out in my longer videos, get access to the members only videos, and just help support this channel in a bigger way, then you can go down there, click the join button. Tiers start as low as 3 schmeckles. There's also the super thanks button down there if you just want to give me some money. But I'm done being a tool. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. So long!